In this video I will show using the inheritance demand. Um, for using inheritance demand, we created a project called INH demand. This is a class library project. It will output a DLL, and this project is referenced inside the sec method, our form based project, and you can see that INH demand here. It's referred as a project, just right click here and choose add reference. Then from the project tab you can pick the INH demand project, so that it will be added as a reference. Once this is added as a reference, it's specified here with a using directive. That's all. Now let's go and explore this project. In the INH demand base, we created a class called INH demand base, and this class has a method called readenv base, so which puts some debugging text in the output window. At the same time, it is reading the environment variable. Environment variable name is passed as a parameter. So this is the base class, and here in the sec methods, um, okay, I'm deriving a class from this sec method. Let me search for it. So here is the method INH demand derived, which I am deriving from INH demand base. And if you see, this we defined in the form based class INH demand derived, and INH demand base is in a different class library project. Now I will go to this class library project, and I will enable this environment. I will enable the security action inheritance demand. So now the base class is demanding the demanding the environment permission to read the sectest environment variable, and we kept the security action as inheritance demand. This means all the class which is derived from this INH demand base should also have the read access to the environment variable. That means all the derived class should have the environment permission to read the sectest environment variable. So now if we come here, we don't have that permission here. I can't say we don't have. First we will make sure whether we have or not. So at present we have permission for both the username and sectest environment variable. So let's first examine this situation. So I'm running the application. I'm choosing inheritance demand here. Then I'm choosing username and environment variable. So I'm clicking read. So we are coming here. First what I am trying to do is I'm trying to create a base class instance. Then I'm accessing the environment variable. If you see, now I am moving to the class library project, and I'm reading the environment variable from the readenv base method. In the output window you can see the environment variables. Similarly, I'm creating a derived class instance. It won't fail because even though the base class is climbing, actually the base class is climbing, all the derived class should have read access to check test environment variable. So our derived class also having the rights for that. So without any issue we are reading that. Now I'm reading the check test environment variable. This time I have a separate method to read that, so I'm getting inside it, and the code is almost similar, so I'm not stepping into it, I'm just stepping over. So you can see that I can able to read both the environment variables. Now I'll go to this sec methods and I will remove the formation for a sec test environment variable. And I will rebuild it. Now if you see, we have a derived instance in the sec methods, but the base class INH demand is climbing for the sec test environment variable, but the instance we are trying to create here, it's not having that permission, right? The base class for this is INH demand base, and INH demand base is claiming all the derived class should have sec test environment variable access. But when we are creating here, the permission is revoked from the zonal permission list of the sec methods exe. So now here, wherever we create this instance, a failure should happen. Let's explore that. In the first case, if you see, when I try to read this username environment variable, um, the derived class instance is created in the click event at all. So that means when I click read, an exception is thrown at the message loop level. Let's explore that. If you see, an error is thrown here. Why an error is thrown in the main application itself? Why? Because we are exactly stopped at the run method, which is a threaded loop which checks for the all the events in the form. Okay, here what happens in the event? So in the event, actually we are creating the derived instance of this ENH demand derived. So base class for this is ENH demand base, and this is defined in a class library. And the class library class ENH demand base is claiming that all the derived class should have check test environment variable read access, but we don't have that for now. So an exception is thrown. That means entry to this event procedure. This is also seen as a method, but this method is a event procedure, and so entry to this event procedure is prohibited. That's why we are getting error in the event base itself. To explain this further, I created one more function call level. So now I'm clicking. Now this time click event is allowed. Why? Because previously I created everything in the click event itself. Now I moved all this stuff. They're simple, just copied this and pasted that on the INH demand whenever we read the sec test environment variable. So that's why entry to this click event procedure is allowed. That means the second button click event procedure is allowed, because here we are not creating the derived class instance. Now let me go ahead. Okay, I'll put this read and let me proceed. Now I'm trying to enter inside this INH demand function, but if you see, go to definition, here I'm trying to create the instance of INH demand derived. So what happens? Entry to this function is not allowed because the stack frame uses the derived class instance, but because of the inheritance demand, that is prohibited. So exception is good. So that's all on this inheritance demand. See you in the next video.